No, it's fine. Or
Yeah, now it's fine. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, can you see my screen?
no. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Yeah, let's get started then. Okay. So you said like you're completely new to data, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So this is how our data pass GUI will look like. So every data bar appliance will have a username and sorry will have an URL to connect, and over there 9090 will be the default port number for our data bus GUI. So whenever if I have to make a connection to my data bar appliance, so I'll be having an URL over where the port number is going to be a 9090, followed by we always have a username and a password to connect to our data bar appliance. At first, when we take a new data power appliance, we will be having only a domain called default. We will not be having any other application domains. Domain is basically nothing but separating your entire appliance or segregating your appliance based upon certain logical implementations. See, like how we divide our system into a D drive and E drive and F drive, right? So based upon certain usages, similarly, I can make use of my data power domains to create multiple domains, and I can do my configurations over there. And one important thing that we need to remember here is we are not supposed to do any kind of a configuration or development in the default domain. Default domain is purely meant for administrative activities, and that's the reason we create other application domains and we do configure the services in those application domains. At first, as I said, you will have only a default domain, so you will be having an admin credentials. So you'll use your admin user ID and the password, and you will just hit on the login button. When you hit on that login, if it is a successful connection, so it will be loading a page which is called as a control panel. Always the first page in your GUI, database GUI, once you log in, will be your control panel. Okay, so this will be your control panel. On the left hand side, you can see a very simple search box, which helps us in navigating through our data power objects. For example, if I have to create an SSL, I can simply search it as SSL. Automatically, it will give me the link. So I can just right click and open it in a new tab. So it is very easy to navigate through the data power appliance by making use of this search engine. Followed by, you will have a firmware. Firmware is nothing but, since data power is an hardware appliance, in order to connect this through a GUI mode, we need an integrated software which is called as a firmware. And since this is an IBM product, IBM will be keep on releasing the latest firmwares, and every organization which uses these data power appliance will also try to upgrade their firmwares. Okay, so that is again an admin activity. I'll show you how to do a firmware upgradation. Followed by, at the top you can see admin@DP. Admin is nothing but your user ID. If I logged in as an admin, I'll be having it as admin@. If I've used some user ID, for example test, that will be test@DP. Okay, and DP is nothing but your appliance name. You can have any appliance name given to this. You can configure this name as well. Like instead of DP, you can give it to data power XI52 or some DGDU003. You can give any name to your appliance. We can do those changes as well. Followed by, we have this domains. See, you have a default domain. Now you are into default domain. If you want to switch to other domain, you can simply switch from here. Since you have logged in as an admin, you are able to switch from one domain to other domain. Okay, sorry. Hello. Yeah, did you say something?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
No, it's breaking.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think you went offline and yeah, okay. Over here, see, you can see there will be a domain, and you can see there is a list of domains over there, correct? So if you have logged in as an admin, you can switch from one domain to other domain easily from like this. Okay. And if you are restricted with an user, right? See, for example, how it works in the real time is sometimes the users might be restricted to only to a particular domain. In that case, we will not be able to navigate from one domain to other domain. Only an admin will be having the access to all the domains, whereas certain users will be restricted in access only to a particular domains. So we can do those configurations as well. Followed by save config. Any work that you do it on the data power appliance, if you want that to be saved, you always need to hit on save config. Until and unless if you don't click on save config, whatever the work that you do will not be saved into your domain. Okay, so always we need to hit on this save config link. And a simple logout button, when you hit on that, it will take you back to your login page. Okay, so now, I said like application domain, right? How do we create a domain? So in order to create an application domain, first we need to log in as an admin to the default domain. Followed by, you need to search for application domain. Okay, so you can see when you just type it as an application in the search box, it will give you the list of that application domain. Just open that in a new tab. So over here, when you open that, it will give you the list of existing domains. You can see these are the domains that we have it in the appliance as of now. And now, if I have to create a new domain, just hit on add. Okay. Now we are trying to create a new domain. So just hit on the add button so that it will allow you to create a new application domain. Now, give a name to your domain. So you can give what should be the name of the domain. You need to give it over here. Okay, let's say I'll give your name. Okay. Followed by administrative state. Always make sure that administrative state of an object is enabled. If you make it as a disabled, that entire object is going to be down. It will not be useful for us. So always we need to ensure that administrative state of an object is enabled. Followed by comments, user defined comments. Followed by visible domains. So visible domains I have set it as default, which means we are trying to inherit certain properties from the default domain into our newly created application domain. If you delete this, for example, if you make this visible domains, if you just remove this, so then certain properties might not work or certain functionalities might not work in your application domain. And that's the reason we always make as a visible domain to default. So that we can inherit certain functionalities into our application domains from the default domain. Followed by, you can choose to give the file permissions. What kind of a permissions that you need to give, like allow files to be copied to deleted. So you can set all those permissions depending upon your need. Whether you want these functionalities to be working in your domain, you can enable it over here.
So what are the files for?
No, like files is nothing but if you want to upload a file into your data power appliance, or if you have to delete a file from an appliance, so everything can be achieved if you enable these options.
Okay.
So if you disable this, right, for example, allow files to copy to, you will not be able to upload any file into your data power domain. Okay, so that's the reason we keep everything in the enabled. And also, if you want to enable an auditing and logging, you can just turn it on so that even your logging function will also work for you. Just apply, see, and the best practice or one of the best help that we have it in the data power is at any point of time, if you're not sure what does this means you can always see an help link. If you hit on that, it will give you an explanation of what are those fields are. Okay, always you can make use of this help hyperlink as well. Just apply now. So once you done with the configuration, always hit on this apply. When you hit on this apply, you can see a statement called successfully created application domain. This configuration has been added and not yet saved. So in order to save the configuration, hit on this save config button. So now you have successfully created an application domain with this particular name. You can see once after the object is configured, you can see the status here, up. If it is down, it means that there is some configuration mismatch. If it is up, it means whatever the configuration that you did is correct. So now if you go back to the list of application domains, you should be able to see the newly created domain over there. Right? See, you can see here. You have a domain being created and it is saved into your domain application domain. The operation state is OP state is up, administrative state is enabled. Okay. So now you have successfully created one application domain in your data path appliance. Now if you want to see whether it is, you can go to that domain or not, you can just see here in the drop down list. See, earlier we did not have the domain over there. So now since I have created an application domain, I can easily switch to that particular domain over here. See, now I am inside this particular domain. Okay, because as an admin I have the permission to log into each and every domain, but in real time, like admin access will not be given to each and every person, so developers will be given with a different set of permissions. So now how do we add a new user? Let's say there is a new user who wants to be added to this particular newly created domain. I should not be giving him an admin access. The user should be restricted only to that particular domain. So if you want to have a new user, you can just search for user accounts. You can see this. So open this manage user accounts. So when you open that, you can see these are the available users as of now. So these are the users who are added into this appliance. If I want to create a new user and so that I can give him an access to my appliance, I have to hit on this add. So now I'm going to create a user and I'm going to give a permission for him to access to that particular newly created domain. So over here I'll give it as user name. Let's say I'll give it as Anand itself as my username. So this will be my user ID in order to connect to my data power appliance, followed by what is the password. Let's say I'll give some password. Next, access levels. You have three different access levels: user deprecated, group defined, and privileged. User deprecated means he'll not be having any access, only he can view certain functionalities only. Apart from that, we usually go with two functions. One is privileged. When you say that a privileged is nothing but an admin access, this user will have all sorts of permission when you set its access level as privileged. He can log into any domain, he can do any kind of work he wants to do. But if you want to restrict him, or let's say I want to create a group of users so that all the members of that particular group will have same level of access. Usually that is what we follow in real time as well. We create a group and we start adding users to that particular group so that all the users of that particular group will have same level of permission. So for example, let's say I have a developer group. So now my roles or permissions for a developer group is they can only read the files, they can only read it. They cannot add any file, they cannot do any configurations, especially in the production. Okay. So if I have to implement these kind of activities for an n number of users, instead of creating each and every user and setting these permissions, I can create a user group and I start adding the users to that particular group so that all the members of that particular group will have the same level of permissions. Clear? No, like if at any point of time, if you feel that like you're not able to catch the things, yeah, you can just stop me.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So now let's create a new user group. So just hit on this plus so that you can create a new user group. Over here, give a name to your user group. What should be your user group? Let's say I'll give it as XI52 BP developers. Followed by access profile. Just hit on this build. We can build what kind of access permissions that we need to give. So your device address, it is nothing but your data path IP address. Application domain, to which domain you want this user group to be created. Let's say I will add to this group. Followed by whether the users in this group can access everything within that domain, or I need to restrict them only to certain things. Let's say I'll give it as this. It means they can only monitor this local directory in the file management. They will not be able to do anything apart from this. But if I select it as all resources, this user group can access all the resources which are part of this particular domain. Followed by what kind of permissions that you can give. Let's say read, write, add, delete, and execute. So usually in the production, if you talk about, they'll be having only these actions. Only they'll be having the read access. That means they will not be able to configure anything. They will not be able to delete anything. They can only log into an appliance and can see the running configurations, especially in the production. But since if it is a development, so we give all sorts of permission to our users. So we enable all the permissions. So now just hit on this save. You can see now you have created an access profile for this particular appliance under this domain where a user in this group can do write, read, add, delete, and execute. So depending upon your need, you can create these access profiles so that the same user group can access all those profiles what you add here. Okay. So just apply this, and now if you go back, let's say now this user, I want him to log in only to this particular domain. You can see domain restriction. I am restricting this user only to this domain. That means he should not be able to log into any other domain. He will not be able to log into a default domain, a DP dev, DP training. He should not be able to log into any other domain except this particular domain.
Now, if you leave it blank, is it default?
Yeah, he can log in. Yes.
Then he can log into any domain.
Yes, he can log into any domain. See?
Okay.
You can see. If no domain is specified, the user can log in into any domain on the device.
Oh, okay.
So now what I will do is I'll just apply this. Sorry, I'll just add this. Just add this domain. Apply again and save the configuration. Save the configuration. Now let's test this. like whatever that user ID we created. So I'll just log out from the appliance. Now I'll give the new user ID. This is my username. I'll give a password and I'll try to log into default domain first. Can you see that? Authentication failure. I'll try to another domain. Let's say to some other domain. Let's say this. Even now it is throwing an error. It is not allowing us to connect. So now I'll try to connect to the desired domain. See, user is able to log in only to this particular domain. So at first, for the first time when you log in, your password will be already, whatever that you have set, it will be expired. So it will be asking you to set a new password. Just change the user password and confirm it. So now you have to log into the domain by giving the correct username and the password. So now if you log in inside, you can see your user ID. So when you logged in as an admin, it was admin@DP, but now it is Anant_DP. And also you can see the domain. When you are logged in as an admin, you have the privilege of, you could see the list of all the domains and you could easily navigate from one domain to other domain. But over here, you don't see the drop-down list itself because this user is restricted only to this particular domain. Right?
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Clear? Okay. Perfect. Okay. Next is we have to go with file management system. What is a file management in Data Power Appliance? So if you just hit on this file management, you can see files and administration, and below that you can see a file management icon. Just hit on that. So when you hit on that, you could see there is a hierarchy and a structural wise, where you can see cert is the first directory, checkpoints, config, export, and everything. So file management is basically nothing but a repository for all your service related files. When I say a file, might be an WSDL, XSD, XML, XSLT, a public certificate, or a private key. Any file that you wish to use in your data power service configuration, before you use them, you always need to upload them into file management.
Okay.
And whatever the folder names that you can see here and the way it is being arranged, it will be same across all the data power appliances and across all the data power domains. Okay, the folder naming conventions and the order in which it is being arranged will remain same across all the data power appliances. So at first, you can see there is a directory called as cert. Cert is basically nothing but, as the name itself indicates, any public certificate and private key that you wish to use, you always need to upload them into cert directory. Be it your consumers, your data powers, or your backend applications, public certificate, or your own data powers private key. If you want to make use of them, you always need to upload them into cert directory. Okay. Now, next to cert directory, you can see there is actions. Just hit on this actions, and you can see upload files. So when you hit on this upload files, it will ask you to choose a file from your local machine. So now you can just browse and you can add a certificate. Let's say I will add some public certificate. Let's say I will add this particular, some public certificate. Add and upload. Now, if you come back to a start directory, you should be able to see the newly uploaded public certificate.
Mm.
And next to that, you can see there is details. If you want to check the details about this particular certificate, you can just hit on that, so you can see the common name, the expiry date, the serial number, version, everything. Okay. So any public certificate and your data per private key, if you want to use it, you always need to upload them into your cert directory. Okay.
Okay.
Next, followed by checkpoints. CHK points is nothing but your checkpoints. Checkpoint is basically nothing but taking a backup of your entire data part domain. See, for example, what happens? Let's assume that you have three different environments, like a dev, test, and a prod. Now, let's assume that you have developed one service called a service 1, and now you are trying to move it to your test domain. Okay. And now let's assume that there might be already certain services. There might be around like 10 services which are already running. Okay. And now you just try to move one service from dev to test, which is this, and due to this particular service movement, your already existing services are failing. So in those cases, how can you revert back the changes? That is what we can make use of a checkpoint. Checkpoint is nothing but taking a backup of your entire data pod domain, so that if something goes wrong, you can always make use of the checkpoint to reverse back the changes back to its previous state.
Okay. This checkpoint is something like what we have service points in Windows?
Yes, absolutely. Kind of a backup. You're just taking a point you're taking a backup at a certain time. So when you do the checkpoint, reverse the checkpoint, whatever the configurations that were present when you actually took the checkpoint, right? So a data pod will go back to that particular state, discarding all the changes what you did.
Oh, okay.
See, for example, now you could see as of now the checkpoints directory in the file management is empty. So now I have to take a checkpoint. For example, we can just search for checkpoints in the search box and just open this. Okay, search for configuration checkpoints or checkpoint and just open it in a new tab. And over there you can see there is a field to enter a checkpoint name. Let's say I'll give it as like this, some date, some name to a checkpoint, and hit on this save checkpoint button and hit on this gun. It will take some time to take the yes. And just save the configuration always. And now just refresh the list. So when you do that, you could see there is a checkpoint with this particular name which has been taken on so and so date and so and so time. So this date and time is with respect to your data power appliances time. So you can set the date and time depending upon the zone where this appliance works, and also the time and the date.
Okay.
And now over here you can see there is a rollback button. So what usually we do in the service movement is we first take a checkpoint and then we move a service to the desired environment in that domain. And if that service, because of the service movement, if the already existing services is failing, you can simply hit on this rollback button. So when you hit on this rollback, you can see rollback configuration. Whatever the configurations that were present on this domain at this point of date and time, your data power will go back to that particular stage by discarding all the other changes.
Okay.
Okay. So you can take a checkpoint like this, and whenever you take a checkpoint over here, that will be creating a copy in the checkpoint directory in the file management. Just refresh the page on the file management and just open checkpoints directory. Could see the same name. Correct. The same name, whatever the checkpoint that you have taken, it will be the same with a .zip file.
It says September 8th, right?
No, yeah, this one it is with respect to your data port's appliance's name.
Okay.
See, because this setting, because my data per appliance date and time has been set to this.
Okay.
You can change the date and time settings. So it is taking this. See, this is a name, right? This is my checkpoint name. You can see here. Correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can change your date and time as per your convenience. So whenever you take a checkpoint, a copy of that will be automatically created inside your checkpoints directory in the file management. The checkpoints will allow you to take a backup and to retain. If there is any issues with respect to your configurations, you can always make use of these checkpoints to revert back the changes. Yes, clear?
Yeah.
Followed by config. Config is a directory which will have a configuration file with the name same as your domain name. See, anant_dp.cfg. It is because your domain name is this. If it is a test domain, it will have test.cfg. And this particular configuration file is nothing but it will be automatically updated by the data power itself whenever you create any configurations in the data power appliance, especially in your domain. This particular configuration file will be updated with those configurations what you do. That is nothing but this particular configuration file will give you the information about present running configurations on an application domain. So if you make any changes, automatically this configuration file will be updated with those latest changes. As of now, I don't have any object being configured in this domain. So that's the reason this configuration direct file is empty. So when you start creating your services, automatically this configuration file will be updated with all those information. Okay, it is not useful to us. It is just gives us an information like what is the present running configuration on our domain. Okay, that is config. Followed by export. See, checkpoint is nothing but where you took a backup and saved it on the data per appliance itself. Now I want to take a backup and save it into my local machine, my local system. That can be done by making use of an export. Okay, export is nothing but taking a copy of a configuration of an object or a service or an entire domain into your local machine. So now I'll just, if you want to take a checkpoint, right? Let me just show it in a different domain because as of now I don't have anything over here at any configurations. Let's say 1 second here. Just give me a minute. I'll just create one object. I'll tell you what is this object is. But for the time being, in order to understand the export, I'll just create one object, and I'll take an export of that. So I just created one object, okay, and also I'll show you this. It's a page. Can you see this? This file. Earlier it was empty, but when I started adding an object into my domain, this configuration file is automatically updated by itself. Right? Now what I'll do is export. See, for every object you could see, there will be a link called export link. In every object, be it whether a service or a domain, everything, you can see this. Export this configuration. Just hit on that download. You'll see a window called as a download. Just hit on that button. So when you do that, automatically, whatever the configuration that you did on the data per appliance will be downloaded into your local machine. See now if I go back, Go back to a downloads folder. You should be able to see that export. See, sample underscore crypto underscore cert. This was my file name, correct? So now I have this export. So whenever you take an export of any object from your appliance, if you go back to your file management, you could see that there will be an entry over there.
Okay.
So it just gives us the information that looking into this export directory, one can easily say that yes, someone has taken a backup of this particular object. Right? So export is basically nothing but taking a copy of the configuration into your local file. Why do I need to take these exports? Usually in real time what happens is, so see, like in real time, everyone will be logging into the same data per appliance. So let's say I might be working in the same domain and you might be working in the same domain. Somehow unknowingly I might delete your services, maybe due to some reason, right? So in that case, if you don't have a backup, then definitely you have to recreate everything. So that's the reason always it's a best practice. What we do, what we follow is we take a backup of whatever that we do on a day. At the end of the day, when we're done with the work, right, we take a backup of whatever that we do, so that in the next day, if we come back and see if something is not working, we can just use that export and make the changes same. Also, export and import, we have import, plays a crucial thing because see in data power how it works is in every environment we will be having multiple domains, sorry, multiple appliances. Because if you have only one appliance, right, if this appliance is down, then definitely your incoming traffic will not be satisfied. Your incoming request will not be processed, correct? So that's the reason in each environment we will be having multiple data power appliances. See how it works in the real time is we'll be having a consumer who is going to trigger a request, and from there we'll be having a load balancer. And from load balancer it will route the request for the appliances. Let's say for DP1 and DP2. So let's say we have kept the algorithm in the load balancer as a round robin, which means it will equally distribute the load among the existing appliances, correct? So let's say I have got one request called as request 1. So now when it comes to the load balancer, it will check whether this appliance is running or not. If it is running, this request 1 will be sent to data power appliance 1. And if the request 2 comes, it will check the health of the second appliance because we have kept it as a round robin. Round robin will equally distribute the load among the existing appliances. The request 2 will be sent to DP2. The request 3 to DP1 and request 4 to DP2. So equally it will distribute the load among the existing appliances. And now let's assume that this data power appliance 1 is down. Maybe due to some network issue or maybe due to some firmware upgradation that you're doing on. So that's the reason this appliance is down. And now let's assume that I got some request. Okay. So now this request should be handled by your data power appliance 2, correct? Because this one is down. So definitely it will go to this data power appliance 2 and it will be processed and your consumer will get a response. Correct? Any confusion?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Clear.
Okay. Yeah. So now that means whatever the configurations that I have it on the data power appliance 1 should also be present on data power appliance 2. Correct?
That's correct.
So that means let's assume now I have created, let's assume that in the data power appliance 1 I have created one service. And it has taken for me like to create this service around taken around 1 hour. Now I have to replicate the same service onto data power appliance 2 as well. So definitely it is going to take 1 hour for me, correct? Instead of that, what I will do is, anyways I have created a service here. I'll take an export over here and I will just import over here. Maybe the time taken for this is only just 10 minutes.
Okay.
It is nothing but, you can say a simple copy and paste, you can say. It is nothing but export and import configurations plays a crucial role when you want to replicate the same objects into multiple domain or multiple appliances. So for that,
Okay.
export plays a crucial role. So whenever you take a zip file like this, right? So you can make use of this zip file and upload it in another domain, and you can create the same object over there as well.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the reason export we use. And whenever you take an export of any object from the domain, a copy of that will be listed over here. Okay. That is export directory. Followed by local.
Mm.
Local is a directory where we upload all our WSDLs, XMLs, XSTs, and XSLTs. Any such files with respect to a service specific, we upload into local directory. And also, one advantage of this local directory is you can create a subdirectory. You cannot create subdirectories in any other directory. You can only create a subdirectory inside your local directory. And the best practice that we follow in real time is we create a subdirectory and we give the name of the directory as the name of your service itself. For example, let's say I have a global weather service and click on confirm. You can just give a name to your directory and run this confirm create. So now inside your local directory, you will have a subdirectory with the name as global weather. Inside your local, there is a global
So
weather
when
directory.
you're creating local means you're creating on the data power.
Data power, yes.
This is
This
not
is
local to your machine, right?
no,
Oh, okay.
not to machine with respect to appliance.
Yeah.
The appliance. So now we create this subdirectory with the name of the service, and whatever this service's specific files are there, we will upload into this subdirectory. So that it will be easy for you to identify which file belongs to which service. Because in real time we'll be having hundreds of services. If we directly upload all the files into local directory, we'll not be able to identify like which WSDL file belongs to which service, right?
Mhm.
That's the reason we create a subdirectory with the name of the service, and we upload all those service specific files into those corresponding subdirectories. For example, see now I'll upload a WSDL. So inside my global weather directory, I'm trying to upload a corresponding WSDL. Now, if you see inside your local, you have a global weather directory, and inside that you have this global weather.history. Right?
Okay.
So
How do
like
you
this,
maintain a version of WSDLs? Like suppose I'm modifying that WSDL again.
mhm. Yeah, that
You need
is,
to maintain.
yeah, you need to again upload it over here. There are two ways of using a WSDL in data power appliance. One is the manually updating your files in the file management, or else
Mhm.
by making use of WSRR, which is your web services registry and repository, WebSphere registry and repository. So either you can do it from there, or you can just upload it directly over here. I'll tell you like how to integrate with the WSRR.
Okay.
Okay.
No, but if I want to maintain two versions here, can I have two here or
Yeah, you can upload another WSDL over here with other version. Absolutely.
so? But which one will the service you use?
No, that we need to select in the service.
Oh, okay.
Because the selection of the WSDL is dependent on your sorry, the WSDL usage will be selected in your service.
Mhm.
Followed by log store and log temp. These are the two directories which we use for the logging purpose, which is basically to save the logs. We make use of this. So we will be seeing this when we do the testing. But as of now, you can just remember that these two directories will help us in saving the logs on the data power plans.
Okay.
Followed by PubSet. If you open this PubSet, you could see there are various public certificates. These are the browser compatible public certificates which are going to be provided with the installation itself. So whenever you install a data power appliance, automatically these browser compatible public certificates will be coming with the installation package itself. You can see the date and time. We have not modified anything. See? Right?
So what are these used for?
Because see, you want to connect to your database GUI through a browser, right? So in order to establish a secure connections with your browser, you need to have this PubCert, all these certificates. These are the browser compatible certificates. So you can open your database GUI with any browser, in any browser. So if you want to have that compatibility of connecting to your database GUI through a browser, you need these public certificates to be present on the appliance. So manually we don't
Yeah,
use it,
but
but internally Datapower will
we
make
don't
use of
check.
the certificates. Yeah, sorry.
So we don't check off anything, right? We just it
Yes, yes.
automatically picks up the
Yes, yes,
right.
yeah. Automatically, we just need to have these on the appliance in the PubSet. That's it. Internally, Datapower itself will use those things. We don't need to do anything manually. Okay, so these are going to be given by default with the installation itself. That
Okay.
is PubSet. Shared cert. See, shared is nothing bad. See, here in an application domain, whatever the files that you upload, either inside your server directory or local, everything is domain specific. That means if you upload a digital file inside your this domain, this will not be visible in any other domains. Always the files are going to be domain specific. Domains, anything like a service file, everything is going to be a domain specific. For example, see over here I have uploaded this cert, right? One second, I think it got hanged. One second, just give it. The system got hanged. One second, just give it. I think it got hanged. Let me bring the mouse. Yeah. Okay. So now, for example, if you see here, you have this certificate, right, which is sample.cer, which you have uploaded into this particular domain. This certificate will not be visible in other domains. Got it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So always each configuration that you do with respect to a domain, it will be available only in that domain. You will not be able to see it in the other domains. But now let's say I want a single file to be available on all the domains. Maybe I need to use the same file in all the domains. So what is the best way? I have to log into each and every domain and I have to upload that file, correct? But instead of that, if I upload it to a shared cert directory, right? This particular file, whatever that you upload inside your shared cert, will be visible across all the domains. As the name itself indicates, shared cert is nothing but whenever if you wish to use a particular file in each and every domain, automatically it will be available if you upload it to the shared cert. See, I haven't uploaded anything here. You can see the date. I have created this domain today, but you could see these files are available, correct? Because
Right.
I have created these files in the default domain into a shared cert. So whenever you add any file into a shared cert directory, that particular file will be visible across all the application domains. So it's the easiest way to make a file visible in all the domains. Rather than uploading in each and every domain, you can simply upload it to a shared cert so that in every domain it will be visible and they can make use of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions? Shared cert?
No.
Followed by store. Store is also a default directory which will be given along with the installation. These are the configuration supporting files without which we will not be able to configure anything on the appliance. Okay, so let's say if you want to configure a web service proxy, or if you want to make use of a WSDL in your service configuration, definitely you would need all these particular files. You can see even these date and time, we will not be using it usually, like directly will not be using it. Internally, data pool requires all these particular files in order for us to do a configuration of the appliance. Okay, so these are the configuration supporting files which will be provided by default with the installation itself. Directly, we are not going to use any of these files except certain files. Apart from that, everything will be internally used by the data pool itself. Clear? Store directory. Temporary, as the name itself indicates, if you want to save it on a temporary basis only during the runtime, if you want to use certain files, you can use it into your temporary directory. And also, your data pod will also make use of this temporary directory in order to save certain intermediate results during the processing of a transaction. Okay. So during the processing of a transaction, if data pod wants to allocate certain space to save certain intermediate results, it will make use of this temporary directory. Clear? So let me just quickly recollect whatever that we discussed. So cert is basically a directory where we upload all our public certificates and private keys, be it your consumers, data paths, or backends public certificate. If you wish to use them in your service configuration, you always need to upload them into a cert directory. Checkpoints is nothing but taking a backup of the entire data pod domain so that if something goes wrong, you can always make use of the checkpoint to revert the changes back to its previous state. Config is a directory where it will create a file with the name of the domain so that any configuration that you do it on the data pod appliance, automatically that particular configuration file will be updated by itself. Export is a directory where whenever we take an export of any object or a service or a domain into a local machine, a copy of that will be created inside your export directory. It will just give us an information of what are the exports that are taken from an application domain. Local is a directory where we can create subdirectories. We usually create a subdirectory with the name of the service so that we can upload all those service specific files like a WSDL, XSD, XML, and XSLT into those directories. Logstore and logtemp are the two directories which we basically use for the logging purpose. PubCert, these are the browser compatible public certificates which needs to be present on the data pod appliance in order to connect for a data pod appliance through a GUI with multiple browsers. Shared cert is basically when you upload any file into a shared cert, it will be available in all the domains. Store is basically a directory which is also a default in nature where it will have all the configuration supporting files, without which we will not be able to configure even a single object on the appliance. Temporary is a directory, as the name itself indicates, in order to use certain files for on a temporary basis, or if data pod wants to allocate certain space during the processing of a transaction, it can make use of this temporary directory. Okay. So every appliance will have the same file structure. Okay, the directories, the name of the directories, and the way in which it is being arranged, everything remains the same. Yes, any questions?
No, not like that.
With respect to the domain creation, access, and as well as this file management system. So probably what you can do is you can also try to practice this. So today's session, and you can just go through this recording once again, and probably in the next session we'll talk about the actual configurations, like what is a crypto objects, how to create a public certificate in a private key, and how to set up an SSL connection, all those things.
Okay. And you said last time you're going to send me that two documents, that course content documents. I didn't get anything.
No, I think okay. I told Santosh to share it to you. Yeah, I'll just talk to him. I'll ask him to share it to you now.
Yeah. So because I don't know how we are following, but I think today
Yes.
I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I'll ask him to forward it to you. Okay.
And
So
how do I practice this ones? Like you have any?
yeah, we will be giving you 1 month access, so we'll be installing it to your machine. I'll ask
Oh, okay.
Santosh to forward you a couple of files. You can just download that and keep it ready. So I'll ask the
Mm-hmm.
team to configure it.
Oh, okay. Is it
Yeah.
like a like image file or what is it?
Yeah, it's an image file, but it will have only access for 1 month. Like it is in a VMware file.
Mm-hmm.
So you just need like VMware workstation.
Oh, okay, okay,
I'll ask them to forward this zip file as well, the VMware workstation file, and as well as the other file which needs to be used inside the VM.
okay.
So you can just download that. So you just need an system with an minimum of 6 to 8 GB RAM and an
Mm-hmm.
i3 above processor. i3 or an i5 should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, because you want that VM virtualization to be running.
Yeah,
Okay. So once you, I'll ask them to download, share it to you. So once you download it, you just confirm back to Santosh. So I will, meanwhile, I'll ask the other team members to configure it in your system.
sure. Okay.
Yeah. Fine then, Anant. Okay. So you can just go through this session once again. And if you have any questions, we can connect back in the tomorrow session. We can discuss those questions and then we'll continue with the next topic.
Yeah, and somebody will send the recording to me, or how does it
Yeah, yeah.
work?
They'll be sending it to you. They'll upload it to the Google
Okay,
Drive and they will send it to you.
sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And see you tomorrow. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.